Hello everybody, I'm Antonia and this is Noel and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company and this is another Boxtail Scoop. Oh, you did a mini one.
I just thought I'd do a mini one.
First things first, as always, please, if you are enjoying these videos, please do give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, ask any questions you'd like, we'll try and answer them, or even subscribe to the channel, and welcome again to our new subscribers. We have been working on...
Just want to talk about the fact that you've put me on this tiny story.
Hey, it really wasn't deliberate. For the set, we're sitting on the set for Hansel and Gretel, and we've got three, I think we showed them to you before, 3 tree stump sort of stools, if you like, little seats. And they came out in order of size, and I always sit here, so I'm on the middle one.
Suddenly noticed when I sat down, I felt I was shorter than you. It's fine.
So we have been working on Hansel and Gretel this week, obviously, as we said we would be. We've been doing rehearsals for the show. We described it as research and development, but in fact it sort of started to segue more into the first week of rehearsals because we got on really well with it. It was a very successful week. We've ended up, I think it would be safe to say, by the end of 5 days with more than a rough sketch of the show. We've actually got a really good, solid, pen drawing of the show.
Sure, yeah. I think just to kind of clarify those terms, because sometimes I wonder whether if you're used to theatre rehearsals, then those terms kind of make sense in terms of what the difference between R&D and rehearsal. We did some videos before on the R&D that we were doing for Gulliver. Perhaps you may have seen them. And for that show, it was much more research and development. The sense of that is that you're exploring ideas for the show, exploring just pictures and trying out things that may or may not make it into the final thing. You're very much experimenting with things that you will then take into rehearsals. And the rehearsals are a bit more structured towards getting a final result. So we started this week with the idea that we had a script, we had some ideas, stuff that we liked. We had set and stuff that we really liked the idea of how it worked. So perhaps it was a little more solid than Gulliver in that sense. But nevertheless, we were prepared this week for it to be R&D and for it to be a bit of experimentation, and hopefully we'd come up with some stuff that we could use for the final show. In actual fact, it's been much more successful than that, really. And we've ended up with something far closer to the final product than we could have hoped for. So it really has been a fantastic week.
I think it's safe to say that when we tend to allot slightly less time for rehearsals for a families like a children's show than we do for an adult show. Not because we don't place the same weight on them, but just because it's a shorter show, usually a good 10 minutes at least shorter than the adult show, and also because children enjoy, especially small children, and Hansel and Gretel is aimed at ages 3 to 7, really. You're looking at, you want to have lots of repetition, things that they can join in with. So actually, once you've got an idea for something, you do tend to use that little motif more than once. Yeah. So you're filling the show out with a lot of the same kind of things over again.
And I think it's also fair to say you don't necessarily have the same kind of emotional depth.
No, you don't have to go into huge detailed character development. The characters need to be fun, they need to be exciting, the children need to be able to enjoy them. We wanted them to, you want them to be able to, you want them to think, oh, I'd like to take that little Robin home with me at the end of the day, or whatever. So it's a different process, and consequently to kind of get a really good version of the show in 5 days is not beyond the realms of possibility. Also, we worked with Mark, again, who you saw in our Gulliver research and development videos, and the 3 of us have been working together for a very long time now, and we have very much got a shorthand. So
that makes a huge difference.
That makes a massive difference. I think if it was our first show, our first family show, there's no way we would have got so far in 5 days. But all those sort of things came together to mean that we progressed very quickly. We spent the first day working on the script, didn't we? Because like you said, we had a version of it.
And I was amazed when you said we'd written that originally in...
Christmas 2019 we wrote that. Because it was supposed to be ready for last year. And Christmas felt like a nice time to write a Christmas show. Yeah. So we did that. So we started with rewrites for that because we'd had a few new ideas for how we'd like the show to be. And once we'd done that, then on the Tuesday, we started at the beginning and just kind of ploughed our way through, kind of going, well, how about we do this then? And how about... And we tend to work in pictures, don't we? Sort of say, what picture would we like to see at this moment, and then how do we get to that picture? So it works like a story, almost like a picture book. You know?
And I suppose this story as well actually lends itself to a lot of that because there's a lot of repetition in the story.
Yeah.
You know, as you often find with fairy tales or with children's stories, but they are at home, they journey into the forest, they come back, they're at home, they journey into the forest, you know. So in that sense, it actually lends itself to reusing some of those same motifs and reusing the things that you've established that are fun to revisit. So you come up with these little songs and things that pop up at time and again.
And then the sort of more research and development-y part of it, I suppose, was that we did have some of the set available to us. Like you said at the beginning, we had key ideas, especially with these kind of revolving trees that we definitely wanted to get in. But then we allowed ourselves the freedom this week to sort of say, right, well, what would we like to have here? So I've now subsequently made a list of new props that we would like to have. We've in fact decided that we'd like to use the lids of these and flip them over to reveal something else. So we'll have to kind of slightly remake the middle probably of those ones and add bits to them, which is nice.
Yeah, and we've ended up with 2 more puppets that need making. So we had stand-ins this week from other shows. We borrowed a couple of puppets from... They're both from Christmas Carol, aren't they? So we borrowed a couple of puppets for this week. We are going to have to make 2 more puppets though. We weren't sure at the beginning whether the characters of Hansel and Gretel's mum and the witch who lives in the gingerbread cottage would be humans or puppets. We've landed now on puppets, and it's been useful because actually there's also specific jobs and specific things that we need those puppets to be able to do that are very much going to inform the way that we make them. So it's useful to be able to do that.
Yes, because I think if we'd have just made ourselves a couple of new puppets that were along the same vein as the Christmas Carol puppets for this show, we'd have made different decisions, and perhaps I think particularly the witch puppet wouldn't have been as much fun.
Yeah, we've got some really fun ideas for the witch puppet and some kind of crazy ideas.
And very silly, so it's nice that we haven't locked ourselves into a specific puppet for that one. However, it was incredibly useful, on the flip side of that, to have made the woodland creatures, the woodland animals, because they then helped to kind of inform what we would do with them in those particular scenes that they're a part of.
Yeah, it's been great.
So I actually wanted to show you one of
those. Speaking of which, we briefly showed one of the other ones last time. Obviously we've been using these ones now this week, but there's still some work to do on them. We've painted them up, and the tricky thing about the paint side of it is that you're never quite sure how it's going to look until you've actually put it on. So you can kind of plan out, what's going to go where as much as you like, but until it's on there, you're never really entirely sure. We had some problems with this lighter colour, this off-white colour here. In fact, the can didn't behave very well, in fact, and the paint itself...
kind of exploded on you a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, yeah. And the paint itself, well, where it meets the darker colours, it's not as clean as I would like it to be. So we're definitely going to have to have a little look at that. I don't know how clearly you can see here, but you can see, there's just some... It's just not as neat.
It's just a little bit of bleed, really, from one to the other. You were wondering, actually, partly whether it was because Noel masking tapes off the areas that he then... And you wondered whether it might have even been
it's
the
different
of the tape.
slightly,
So
so I might try something else on that score. And also, you have to sort of play around a little bit with the combination of colours. And sometimes you'll think, well, actually, maybe there are too many colours on here now. Or maybe this, the inside, this bit needs to be a different colour. We don't need as much of that one. We are, as we said, also going to put some fabric onto the face.
Yeah, so you can imagine having some of this lovely brown textured, not textured, but the patterned fabric on the face just to tie the head to the body, which I think will definitely help. So there's a little bit of work to do on them, but they're getting there, and we wanted to get some paint on them before we did rehearsals just because it makes them a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
So we've now got a little break, in fact, from Hansel and Gretel. We did record, we videoed everything, filmed it all this week so that we wouldn't forget what we're doing. But we have other shows now coming up. So as we mentioned before, we're doing Alice's Adventures in Wonderland in Cavendish Square as part of the Underbellies festival there in their Spiegel tent, and that is on the 29th and 30th of August, so we'd love to see you there if you'd like to come to that one. And then just a few days ago, we found out that we're also, in fact, going to take some shows to the Edinburgh Fringe, which is a bit mad, but fun, and a bit crazy. But we're going to be there again as part of Underbelly's Fringe this year in George Square Gardens on the 23rd and 24th of August, and we're taking Northanger Abbey there, which was the very first show we ever took to the Fringe. It's the first show we ever made, and we'll talk a little bit more about Edinburgh Fringe in general and that in the next vlog. But
we're thrilled to be going back after it was
really
cancelled last year, which has never happened before. We are thrilled to be going back, but it's also a bit of an unknown quantity because it can't take place as it normally does.
No.
So nobody quite knows what to expect.
or whether anybody will be there, but we really hope they are. So that's that.
So thanks for watching, and as Antonio said at the beginning, if you've enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment if you've got any questions, possibly even subscribe. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.